I started in this business 18 years ago. And if you would have found me 18 years ago, you guys, you would have had to walk into a restaurant. I was working at Earl's in Edmonton, Alberta, and I was making $11 an hour. But I just wanted to be somebody. I just wanted more. I just wanted more out of my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly, but I knew that there was more. And when I graduated from l'Université d'Alberta in 2005, I had two opportunities. Opportunity one was the restaurant that I had worked at offered me a general manager position. They offered me $100,000 a year. That was pretty good money for a 23-year-old. The second opportunity I had is my parents had ran a very successful construction business in Calgary. And they had 200 employees. I was the oldest son. My family was from Slovenia, very traditional family, and the business was now mine to take over. And I remember having this conversation with my dad at the kitchen table. He said, "Son, it's time for you to get into the business with your family." And I remember that day like it was yesterday. And I took a breath, and I paused, and I remember looking up, and all I could see was the life that I wanted. And when I came back down, I looked my dad in the eyes and I said, "Dad, this was your path, not mine. I need to find my own way. I need to find my own mountain to climb." And my parents asked me a question. They said, "If not this, then what?" I said, "I don't know. But I believe that my Creator has something out there for me, a guy like me, to go and do extraordinary things with his life." And I drove all the way back up to Edmonton, a 3-hour drive, and I had tears rolling down my face the entire time. It was the last real time I remember being that emotional in my life. And I logged on a few minutes early, and I heard a few of you speaking on stage in your beautiful French language. And I heard some of you, I heard some of me in you. Your stories, your energy. I heard a bunch of voices that they want this to work so bad. They feel like they found it. You guys, when I was introduced to this company, 2 weeks after that conversation with my parents, I'm sitting at a coffee shop and I'm literally contemplating the meaning of my life. God, why am I here? What am I going to do with my life? I don't want to work at a restaurant forever. I don't want to go down the easy path with my family business. What is there? What is there for guys like me that want it so bad? Guys that were sick their whole life, a late bloomer, bullied in school, didn't have a ton of friends growing up, a bit of a loner because I always thought different. I always knew the kind of life that I wanted. I partied, but I didn't love to party. I had friends, but I appreciated the real friends. My parents had done just well enough in life that I knew what the good life tasted like. And I wanted that life for my future wife, for my future kids. And I'm sitting in a coffee shop. I got goosebumps right now. You guys got goosebumps? Or is it just me, right? And I'm sitting in that coffee shop. And I remember when that door opened and I heard the little bell chime, ding, ding. And I looked over and my angel walked in the door. Her name was Susan Abram. She walked into that restaurant. Her head turned. Her and I made contact. She was a 40-year-old single mom. I was a 23-year-old lost. And she walked up to the counter, got herself a coffee, and she sat down at my table like we had known each other for our entire lives. And there was something familiar about her, yet I had never met her before. And she prospected me to come to a BPM that Thursday night. She said, "It's some financial thing." I was like, "Well, what is it?" She said, "It's some financial thing." Now, you guys are worried about saying the wrong thing to the right person. I showed up on a Thursday night in January. It was actually minus 30, not just stage talk. It was actually minus 30. There was at least 8 inches of snow. And I opened up those BPM doors, and on the same BPM night, at the office, I met Greg Chernacka, Cameron Agnew, Derek Germain, Rael Michaud, Cameron Dunbar, all on the same BPM night. See, that was the only office that Rael Michaud had, a 4,500 square foot office, and he had just crossed 350,000 of income. And there I was in the second row. No idea how I got there. Didn't know anything about the financial industry, but just like somebody put you on their list, somebody got me to a meeting. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't thank God for this opportunity. See, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and what's not working, and a policy doesn't go through, and I failed an exam, and a teammate quit, and somebody wrote something on the internet. There's chaos around us all the time in our lives. But I just go back to that quiet moment when I was sitting in the second row, and I was just praying. I said, God, please tell me this is real. Tell me this isn't one of those things. I don't need it to be easy. I just need it to be possible. Just tell me it's possible. Tell me that there's something there for a guy like me. And 18 years later, I met my wife in the company. So for you single guys out there and single ladies, this is a great matchup program, right? Yeah, there we go. I heard a couple single ladies in the crowd. I hope they're not married. I hope it wasn't the married ones that whistled. But listen, we have 3 beautiful kids. My sister's in the business. They're earning over $500,000 a year. All the men in my wedding party are now full-time, all well over 6 figures. My wife's family's in the business, and they're just about to cross $250,000 a year. And this business has changed our lives, just like it could change yours. But I want to end my part of the story on two important pieces. I was 2 weeks into the business, and I just passed my exams, and I went to my very first event. There was 2,000 people in all of Edmonton. Actually, the whole company. It was a company event in Edmonton. There was 2,000 people, everybody. And I was sitting in the last row at the Shaw Conference Center on a chair on concrete. And the co-founder gets up on stage and he says, "Hey, I heard there's somebody in the crowd that passed their exams in 1 week." And my buddy is like, "That's you." And I was like, no. He's like, "That's you." And then the co-founder goes, "Stand up, son. Wherever you are, stand up." And I was like, So I stood up, and everybody turned their chair on the concrete. It was like, "Arch!" And I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And the co-founder goes, "Come up on stage, son." So I go up on stage, and I could barely hear anything he was saying, but he's got his arm around me, and he's like, "This guy's going to the top," and something. And I look out in the crowd. And who do I see sitting in the crowd? 2 of my old bosses from the restaurant. Dumb and Dumber. Just kidding. And I remember a year and a half earlier, my regional manager, who was making $250,000 a year, he was actually the operations leader of the restaurant, year and a half ago, walking through the kitchen going, "Steve, I'm leaving the restaurant and I want to talk to you about why." Never called me. 6 months after that, my night manager says, "Hey, I'm leaving the restaurant to go work with this guy. We should talk. I want to tell you what I'm doing." I'm like, "Absolutely. If you guys are both leaving, you're my dream job's dream job." Never called me. And I see these 2 guys sitting in the crowd, and I go up to them after, and I go, "Oh my gosh, like, you guys are doing this business?" They're like, "Yeah." And I didn't quite figure out what was going on yet. I didn't quite figure out that they were like, oh, I wish I would have had him on my team. Because one of them, when he saw me from stage, went like this. And I went up and talked to him, and he looked me in the eye in this empathetic look. He goes, Steve, I'm going to be honest with you right now. You were the third person that I wrote down on my list. But when we were making calls with my trainer, I told my trainer that you were just a baker and that you'd probably never make it here. He says, brother, I crossed you off my list. I said, what? He said, I took my pen and I crossed you off my list. All of my insecurities from my childhood came back to me in that moment. And I know he didn't mean anything by it, you guys, but I was sick when he told me that. You never, ever, ever count somebody out of the race. The gentleman that eventually recruited me, named Derek Germain, great guy, earns between $50,000 and $60,000 a month off of our team. The person that crossed Steve Holbrook off his list costs him millions of dollars a year, probably $100 million in net worth over the next 30 to 40 years. Don't you ever count somebody out, because you never know what's on the inside. The second part of my story is this. My 4th year in the business, many of you heard my story, I got really sick. I have Crohn's disease. I ended up in the hospital in 2009. I spent the entire year in the hospital. I had my rectum taken out. I had my colon taken out, and I have 8 feet of bowel removed permanently from my body. And I thought I was going to pass away. I thought I was going to die at least twice that year. I lost 75 pounds. I was very sick. I had to get all of my affairs in order. I had my will. I had everything ready to go. I had to sign off on where my business was to go. Everything was in order. But thank God that I'm still here. And I got out of the hospital just before 2010. And from 2010 to 2023, we went from 10 licenses to 985 licenses in 13 years because of this amazing system. And I appreciate the introduction that Jay gave me, but I want to tell you something. Steve Holbrook is a product of WFG. Steve Holbrook is not an anomaly. Steve Holbrook is a product of WFG. And listen, I made a lot of mistakes along the way. What I'm going to talk to you guys about today is coming from a place of a guy who's been at this a long time, who's seen a lot of things. And if you can learn from some of our mistakes, if you can learn from things that took Greg and I 10 years to do, right? Even Jay, 3-4 years to do, although he's setting some record paces. I want you guys to know that you can do it bigger and better and faster than we ever did it. I wasn't a superstar when I started. I was here for 5 years. I had 10 licenses on my team. I wasn't being paraded across stage. I wasn't being introduced like Jay introduced me now. You guys see me now as the finished product. You guys see me now as the $1 million earner, and I appreciate that. And I'm so glad you can see me like this because this was my goal. But I want you to know that you all have the same opportunity as I do to climb up. So let's get into it. Let's get into the talk. I'm going to share with you 5 things today that I think are very, very, very important. 5 things that'll help you develop a 7-figure mindset and a 7-figure business. So pull out your pen, okay? Make sure the person that's beside you is awake. If they're not awake, give them one of these, okay? Pen check. Make sure everybody's got a pen. Okay? Make sure everybody's taking notes. The first thing that I want you to write down is this. You got to keep your dream in front of you. You have to keep your dream in front of you because you're going to need it. Things are going to get tough. See, in the beginning, when we sign our code, we're super excited. We have a big dream. We want to retire our spouse. We want to make 6 figures. Everybody's got their story. Oh, I'm here to make 6 figures and I'm here to travel the world and I'm here to save the baby whales. And we have these big goals and build wells in Africa. We're dreaming again. Thank God I got recruited to WFG because I'm dreaming again. And then our first teammate quits. And then we shrink our goal. And we get a little charge back and it shrinks again. And it feels like we take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back because business gets hard sometimes. Nobody promised you this was going to be easy, remember? They promised you it was going to be worth it. But the key is that while you face these challenges, you guys, you got to keep your dream in front of you. You got to know what you're fighting for. Nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to call you at 5:30 in the morning and go, hey, Sarah, let me remind you why you're doing it. That's not how it works. See, the biggest difference I see between the winners and the losers is it's not that the winners don't lose. It's that the winners have the ability to sell themselves the dream every day. And the people that don't win, you know what they do? They show up to training going, sell me the dream. Somebody's got to sell me the dream today. They're waiting for their upline. They're waiting for their sideline. They're waiting for their downline. My God, they're waiting for their spouse who's not even licensed to sell them the dream. You guys, we're in the leadership business. Every day we have to empty our tank on other people. We're constantly pouring in other people, pouring into our team, pouring into our clients, right? We're selling the dream. We're on meetings. Who's selling you the dream? How are you filling your tank? I want you to set some time aside every day. Please hear me on this. To refuel your tank. Get fired up. Go and tag your 10 favorite YouTube videos. I got a bunch of them. Let's got a bunch of them. Get your dream in front of you. Big dream, medium dream, small dream, micro dreams, weekly dreams. Like as many things as you can. Building your dream is like building a fire. Every one of your goals, small or big, is like putting a piece of wood on the fire. To build a fire, you have kindling, which is the small little pieces of wood. And then you have the medium-sized wood. And then once the fire gets hot, you can throw the big pieces of wood on, the big logs. But here's what I know about you. When the fire dies down, the predators set in. You only get scared when the fire gets small. When the fire is burning hot and you're in line with why you're here, nothing gets in your way. Nothing can stop you. Jay and I had a great chat this morning, right? As you get bigger in the business, your capacity to handle bigger problems grows. Part of your capacity increasing is your ability to handle bigger issues, but the only way that's going to happen is if you start thinking at a higher level. I want you to keep your dreams in front of you. Number 2, numéro 2. I want you to pull inspiration from your past. I want you to pull inspiration from your past. See, you might be sitting here today looking at me in the eyes going, Steve, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can. I'm scared, Jay. I'm not going to admit it, but I'm scared. I feel like I've been here a while. Nothing's really happened for me. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I have what it takes. I don't know if I'm the kind of person that's ever going to win. And if that's you, like that was me, I want you to pull some inspiration from your past. Listen to me. You've all been through turbulence in your life, but you never gave yourself credit for it. You've all had setbacks in your life. You've all had challenges in your life. I think about when Jay and Sam moved to Quebec. My God. They thought they had this thing started 10 times before it took off. All the challenges with being one of the founders of Quebec. Going to Quebec with a couple other teams. Few other teams gave up on their dream. They quit. They sold out when things got hard. They cashed in their chips. all the challenges that you guys have faced, your leaders have faced, and you've persevered. How about some of you in your life? Some of the things that you've been through in your life and only you know about is insane. I had one of my leaders open up to me about a month ago about some of the things that happened to him in his childhood with a family member. I was blown away. Just when I thought my challenges were big, I was blown away by what some of you actually have been through in your life. But you want to know what? He got through it. And here's what I told him. If you can get through that, you can get to SMD and promote a few SMDs. You got to pull inspiration from what you've been through. You got to pull it. I remember this one time I was living in Edmonton. I just started in WFG. I was driving home to my house with my girlfriend at the time, and we pulled up in front of my house. And all of a sudden, I saw this flash of fire behind my car just go by quick in the mirror. And I was like, what the heck was that? And this guy came running from behind my car and dropped right on my front lawn. And he was on fire. His whole body was on fire. And I got out of my car and I went to this man, and all his clothes had melted in one spot, and he was lying naked on my lawn, completely on fire. And I watched the skin burn off of his body. And I called 911, and they told me what to do and dip his fingers in water to put him into shock. I had to get him into shock, and I covered his privates up with my jean jacket. And it turns out that man was on meth. For 7 days, he was on a meth bender. He drank a whole gallon of gasoline and poured it on himself and lit a match and killed himself. And the reason I tell you that story, you guys, is because when things get hard, I think back to that guy. There was an article in the newspaper. I told the newspaper, I said, they were asking me questions. I said, I thought this guy was I figure he was about 40 years old because he looked 40 years old as he was burning on my lawn. I found out later this guy was 23 years old and his name was Steven with a PH, the same as me. And he passed away 3 weeks later in the hospital from severe burns. And I think back to him and I being the same age and what his life would have looked like at 42 had he not got hooked on drugs and decided to light himself on fire. When things get hard, you guys, I think about guys like Steven and what he went through. When things get hard, I think about when I was at my rock bottom and I got through it. I think about people that have to survive cancer. See, I know you can do this. I know you can. But you can't be a victim and move forward. You can't be feeling sorry for yourself and move forward. It is what it is. You can't change the past. You can't change where you came from. All you can change is the future. You've made it this far. You're in the room. You're in the room. There's a lot of people that registered and didn't even show up. You're in the room. You're taking notes. You're there. Some of you are speaking. You're this close. You're this close. Don't give up now. Draw inspiration from how far you've come. My third point. Now we're going to dive in a little bit to the system. You guys fired up? Is this stuff making sense so far? Number 3. You have to run an effective system. There's a lot of talented people in this room. But talent only goes so far. Let's talk business for a second. You have to decide what kind of a business you're trying to build. Are you trying to build a boutique steakhouse downtown Quebec? Or are you trying to build the franchising rights to McDonald's? There's a lot of people in WFG that are building their WFG business like it's a mom and pop steakhouse, like it's a one restaurant show where they're really good and they have a bunch of people that they're managing, but they never really seem to duplicate. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can make $150,000 a year in that model, but here's the problem. You'll never build any leaders. You'll never duplicate. The opportunity will never be the same for other people. See, when you're running like a boutique steakhouse, nobody is ever going to own that restaurant. Sometimes you're going to lose some people and they're going to quit and go across the street and open up next door. In 2010, when I got out of the hospital, I made a decision. I got out of the insurance business and I got into the distribution of insurance business. I am in the distribution game. Get in the distribution game of financial services. I don't care what system you're running. Jay's got a tight system. We ran by it this morning. You guys, the system is there. You have a system. The person that's sitting in the room right now, and maybe people barely know your name, but there's somebody in the room right now who is going to run the system better than anybody else. See, 13 years ago, nobody heard of Raja Dhaliwal. 7 years ago, nobody knew who Daniel Fombo was, and now he's making $8 million a year. It's not the most talented speaker. It's not who came from the best family. The person who runs the most effective system is going to win the biggest. That's the game. WFG has hundreds of people who make $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year that nobody knows about because they're not flashy. They don't they don't drive Lamborghinis. They don't even necessarily speak at convention. They're private people, but they have run a effective system. I want to give you guys some hope that you can win here, but you got to run a tight system. Don't make the mistake that I did. For the first 6 years, I ran a personality-driven business. My startup was different every time. I would start you up depending on how I felt. If I was out all night partying at supper clubs in Montreal, I like supper clubs in Montreal, then maybe I would shortcut you and just get you into licensing and not make calls or not. See, most of us in WFG, we run our business based on how we feel. We don't give the same experience every time. But when you're running a McDonald's, the pickle goes here, then the ketchup, then the tomato, and then the lettuce. In that order. Every time. Now, when we meet with clients, every client is going to get a different plan. I'm not talking about the client side. I'm talking about running your business. I'm talking about when you recruit somebody in your business, running a very, very, very tight, effective system. And I appreciate the intro that Jay gave me. When we started running a system, we started double-digit recruiting and we've never looked back. We have run double-digit recruiting in our base shop since January 2015. We have never done less than 10 recruits a month in our base shop for 9 years in a row. Never. Because we're running an effective system. Before that, 6 recruits, 2 recruits, 11, 4, 15, 7, 8, 2, 10, 10, 11, 10, 4. Let me show you my numbers. It's okay. I got nothing to hide. Let me show you my numbers, and I'll show you when we started running a system. So these are my numbers before. These are my base shop numbers. 5, 5, 6, 17, 10, 9, 5, 7, 10, 6, 4, 10, 4. I had a meeting with myself January 1st, 2015. And I asked myself a question. What's my standard going to be? Steve, pick one number. One number that will solve all of your problems. Now, I could have There's a bunch of numbers. I could have said 2 personal recruits a month. That's a good one. 10,000 points a month. Okay. I could have said all these things. Jay, I looked myself in the eye and said, Steve Holbrook is never going below 10 recruits a month ever again until the day he gives up his base shop. And look what happened. Look at these numbers. Boom. Promoted 1 SMD. And then 2. And then 3. And then 4. And then 5. And then 6. And then 7. And then 8. And our base shop grew. And then 9. 10. Our 11th SMD came direct. Never below, never below, never below, never below, never below, never below, never, never. Last month, 180 and 43 in the base. I'm talking to you guys about running a predictable, duplicatable system. Yes, every client that you meet gets a needs analysis, especially on Quebec, gets a proper plan, and gets a customized approach. I'm not talking about the client side. The client side is complicated enough. If you're not running an effective, simple system, everything seems complicated. Nobody knows what's going on. Let me tell you about running a system. Running a system sells people the dream. People are here because they want to build their McDonald's. People are here because they want to get free. They want their dream. So why are we letting our teammates tell us how to run the business? Why are we letting somebody who's a school teacher get coded and say, you know what, Steve? Actually, with my 4 hours of experience, this is how we're going to run it here. What do you mean, dude? You just bought a McDonald's. The pickle goes here. You can't buy a McDonald's and introduce a veggie wrap. That's not how it works. I'm talking to you about running a system. So I'm going to show you a slide to give you a visual on what I'm talking about on running an effective system. See, we're in the recruiting business. I'm not sure if Jay told you, but we're in the recruiting business. Okay? To have a vision is to have a recruiting mindset. If you don't have a recruiting mindset yet, that's okay. That's okay. It just means you lack vision in the business. The bigger the vision, the bigger the recruiting mindset. Now, it can be developed. You can develop a recruiting mindset, but you need to develop a vision. If you have a short-term vision, month-to-month vision, week-to-week vision, your recruiting numbers are going to be down all the time. If you're thinking big, a year from now, 3 years from now, if you know where you want to be, then you're going to be thinking recruiting vision. I laid out my vision last night for my team. My vision for my team, and I'll just kind of show you quick, just show you what we covered last night, just to kind of sell you guys the dream on what I mean by laying out your vision. This is our team vision right here. I'll show you right here. This is our game plan. By the end of 2027, our goal is to have 5,000 licensed agents. We're going to produce 300 new $100,000 earners. We're going to produce 60 new $250,000, 25 new $500,000, 15 $750,000, and 10 new $1 million earners. We're going to be a 100 million point team. So I talk about the vision all the time, where we're going, what it's going to look like. And here's what's in it for you guys. Everybody in this room can be one of the 300 people. Everybody in this room can be one of the, 60 of you in the room can be a $250,000 earner. So when I'm talking about my vision, when I'm talking about where we're going, see, this slide sells me the dream. I'm constantly selling myself the dream by casting the vision. And by working on your vision and selling the dream and talking about the dream, you develop this recruiting mindset. And once you develop this recruiting mindset and the standard of 2 recruits, 5 recruits, 10 recruits, and I know you guys are a recruiting team, so I'm talking to the right team here. I feel like I'm talking to my base shop. Then you got to run the system. So let's talk about the system. Now, our words might be a little different. Okay? You guys have what works for you. We might do something the same, or it doesn't matter what we do as long as we follow a system. So we recruit these people. Here's the first step. The 7-day standard. Write that down. I know what you guys do is in your startup because Jay and I talked about it. It's what we do in our startup. It's the same thing. Our startups are the same. But here's my question. How many of our recruits follow the 7-day standard? How many of our recruits actually get their plan done? Actually get their list done? Actually check off the list? See, it doesn't matter exactly to me what your 7-day standard is. Whatever Mr. Bergeron is laying out is what you should be doing. But here's my question. If we recruit 10 people and only 3 people are following through with what we're asking them to do, we're not running a tight system. What if 90% of our new recruits could get through that first 7-day standard? What if 9 out of 10 people followed through on what we laid out? That'd be a game changer. So how do we get them to do it? It starts in the follow-up interview. Before you're recruiting people, you got to be recruiting them to the system. Hey, Jay, listen, before I bring you on board, let me tell you what's going to happen in the first week. This system is proven. This is a 7-figure system. Let me tell you exactly how it works. In fact, let me ask you a question. Are you willing to put your faith in me? Are you willing to let me lead you through the system that's worked for years? Are you ready? Are you coachable? Are you ready to go? Perfect. Here's what's going to happen in the first 7 days. Blank, 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 blank. Boom. 9 out of 10 people get through it. Then in our team, we have something called pre-licensed and promoted the first 30 days. I don't care what you call it. But I talked to Jay. Your guys' goal, pre-license, is their certifications and their promotion. Our goal is to get everybody through their certs and their first promotion in the first 30 days. I know you guys try to do the same thing. Might be a different time frame. I don't care. Here's my point. Not everybody hits the 7-day standard. Not everybody gets their certs done and PLP 30. We lose people at every level. People quit. Some people quit in the first 7 days. Some people quit before they get their first promotion. But what if 80% of our recruits passed their certification exams and got promoted in the first 30 days? What would that look like? What if from there, 50% of our recruits got licensed? Is everybody going to get licensed? Nope. We don't expect them to, especially when you have a visual like this. What if 25% of our recruits got net licensed? Then we build CFTs, and then we build marketing directors, and then they get their 50K watch, and then they promote an MD, then they get their ring, and then they become SMDs, which is the finished product. See, when you lay out the system and you understand the system, that quitting is part of the process. You see at the bottom, the square is the small, SMD is the smallest square because not everybody makes it to SMD. People get stuck on the first 7 days. Some people get stuck in their first promotion. Some people get stuck in licensing or stuck at net licensing. We have a lot of net licensed agents that never hit CFT. I bet you there's some CFTs in the crowd right now that are not yet MDs. There's probably some MDs in the crowd that aren't yet 50K watch. That's okay. Just get there. I bet you there's some MDs that have their watch that haven't promoted an MD yet. I bet you there's some MDs that have an MD that don't have their ring yet. And I bet you there's some MDs that have an MD that have not been SMD yet. Here's the craziest part. You ready for this? If you can walk 3 people through this funnel, you're making 300 grand a year. Hold on, let me repeat that. If you walk 3 people from code to SMD, you're an EMD making 300,000 a year. 3 people. So let me ask you a question. What's going to be easier for you to understand or wrap your head around? Buying 5 rental properties and paying them off in cash, saving $5 million in cash and savings and pulling off 300 grand a year, or teaching 3 people, 3, how to go from the first 7 days to SMD. If you do it 6 times, you're making 500,000 a year. And when I did it 9 times, I became an executive vice chairman. You need 9 people who you can walk through your system. Now, yours might be a little different. I'm not worried about that. Please don't go to Jason and be like, we have to tweak something. Nobody wants to hear you say that. You're missing my entire point. My point is that these are the steps. You guys have your steps. How effective are you at running a system? How effective are you going to be moving forward? You don't need to be a world-class speaker like Ed. You don't have to be the best closer in the room. It starts with that first 7 days. You're laying out the expectation. You're setting the tone. You're getting them some wins, right? You make them a client. By making them a client, they become a crusader. People come in, they go, Steve, I want to get product training. Yep, okay, perfect. Let's get your client plan done and you can learn about the product. Okay. Hey, Steve, I want to learn about product. Okay, great. We're going to get you your associate promotion in the first 30 days, and you're going to see your client plan, and you're going to see 3 other client plans. You're going to see 4 client plans. 4 in the first month, start to finish. Wow. That's awesome. That sounds like great product training. Absolutely, because that's our system, and that's the way we run it. And it's the same every time. I'm teaching you how to build a 7-figure system. Isn't it great, Doug, that we have a system? Hey, Sally, can you imagine being in a business where you have to come up with a system? Hey, Kim, you didn't quit your job to join a business where you have to come up with a system, did you? No, it's good. It's already laid out. Jason already has the system. Our leader has already laid it out. Our leaders have laid it out. We don't have to do any thinking. Well, Mark, I think I'm going to run things my way for a bit. Okay, I'm just not sure that you're going to be a fit for our team. Maybe we should hold off doing your code. You're telling me you want to buy McDonald's, but then you're telling me you want to run the Burger King system. Let me tell you about our team. 90% of the people that we recruit get through the 70 standard. 80% get promoted the first month. Let me ask you a question before I code you, Skippy. Are you committed to following the system? Are you committed to getting your promotion? Are you committed to doing whatever we need to get you done to get through the system? Because at the end of the day, my job as a trainer is to get you to senior broker. Does that make sense, you guys? Did I lose anybody? That's what changed for me in 2015. And you know what's changed for me again in 2023? I'm more systematized than I've ever been. And I'm not one of those guys that's like, oh, watch me go. Forget about that's a bunch of BS. But I just want you guys to pay attention to what's going to be happening here in the next 2 to 3 years. And instead of thinking to yourself, wow, Steve's a great speaker. It must be because of social media. It must be because he found some better people than me. That's a bunch of, those are just excuses in your brain. You know what the truth is? The truth is we're following a system. You want to know why the reason that Jason and Sam are beating everybody else in Dynasty right now? Do you want to know the real reason? Because I talked to Greg about this morning. We were texting back and forth. This guy is running a better system than 90% of people in Dynasty. Well, what if you guys could take your system that's maybe 50% effective, and what if you could run it 90% effective? Now you could just add more volume into it, and you'd be able to predict the promotions at a higher level. All right, I got a boogie. We got 5 minutes left. Number 4, separation summer. Every year, you guys, the separation happens in summer. See, look, I get it. We live in Canada. It's hard, I know. It snows 8 months a year. I get it, right? I get it. All you single guys, right? Summer in Montreal, all the short skirts, right? All the supper clubs. I get it. And I was 23 too. I understand. People get distracted. We got kids, want to go to the park, all this stuff. It's like most people in WFG run a seasonal business. We run a seasonal business. But those of you that run your business year round are going to smoke everybody. I report to my bank account. And if your bank account's not full, and you're not running an effective business and you're not where you want to be yet, you guys, it doesn't matter if it's 33 degrees outside. You cannot run your business based on what the weather is. You cannot run your business based on how nice it is outside. And as soon as you start telling yourself, here's some things to look out for. As soon as you start saying things like this out loud, let me give you some examples. As soon as you start saying, oh, I'm getting a lot of reschedules because it's summer. That's on you. That's your mindset. All of my people are at the lake. No, your brain is at the lake. That's where you are. You're at the lake, right? When you're at the lake mentally, all your guys are at the lake mentally. Don't start saying those things out loud because they don't serve you and they're not true. I had my biggest months were always in the summer because everybody's happy, right? People aren't stressed out. It's sunny outside. They forgot about their debt. They forgot about their relationship problems. They forgot about the politics. Everybody's euphoric in Canada in the summer. That's your best time to emotionally connect with people. And yeah, there's barbecues and you can get out and you can be social and COVID's over. You can go around and meet people, right? I stomped on people in summer. I caught everybody in summer. Everybody works hard in the winter. Everybody's locked down in the winter. Nobody goes outside in the winter. The winter's easy to build. It's the separations in the summer. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine yourself September 1st. Imagine yourself. It's September 1st. Ask yourself a question. How do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel like, oh, I got no momentum. I have the same 3 people showing up. I got to start all over again. Oh, another September, time to crank it back up, right? Let's get it all cranked up. Or do you want to be like, wow, we got more going on we ever have. I'm so glad we hit it hard in summer. I'm so glad we doubled down. I'm so glad we hit our recruiting number. I'm so glad that we have more momentum than we've ever had. So September is like this. It's not a rebirth. It's not a restart. You're smoking it in September. Don't take your foot off the gas. June, July, August, 90 days of separation. And you don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to tell anybody about it. Your numbers are going to speak for itself. You don't need to say anything. Because I'm a results guy. And to me, results are all that matters. Go get the results for your family. You deserve it, especially coming out of this event. And here's my last point as we wrap up. I want to talk to you guys today about standards. I have a few minutes left. Write that down. Standards. I think in French, it's standard. Our habits and our behaviors is a direct reflection of the standard that we have set for our life. Our habits and our behaviors is a direct reflection of the standard that we have set for our life. See, everybody's trying to change their habits. I got to get up earlier. I need better habits. Steve, what's your habits? Jay, what's your habits? I need better habits. I'm changing my habits. Your habits don't have anything to do with it. Because if the standard doesn't change, your habits will never stay long term. If you're struggling financially right now, that's your standard. It's your standard. If you're flat in your business right now, you're at your standard. You're at your standard. If you're surging right now, if you're exploding, if you're growing, you're chasing a new standard. If your income is shrinking, you've surprised yourself, you've exceeded your standard, and now you're coming back down to where the standard is. Your recruiting per month the last 4 months reflects your standard. Your income reflects your standard. Where you're at reflects your standard. Your physical health reflects your health standard. Your mental health reflects your mental standard. You know what most people do? They complain and they sulk and they play victim because it's easier to do than change a standard. You know what the real work is, you guys? The real work is accepting responsibility for where we're at and raising the standard. That's the real work. And when you can figure that part out, it's game over. The real standard is getting up at 5 a.m. when nobody's watching and doing a workout and not posting about it. The real work is going into the office on a Sunday and making 30 phone calls and booking 20 appointments when you're the only one at the office. And the best leaders always have the ability to raise the standard just a little bit when they get flat. Listen, none of what I talked about today is going to matter if we can't increase our standard. And part of increasing your standard is coming to terms with the fact that you deserve it. You deserve to win. You deserve to be here. You deserve to be successful. You deserve to make real money. You deserve to be on stage. You deserve to be doing this Zoom call. You just got to go and earn it. But you deserve it. You just have to earn it. You got to put in the work. And if you feel ready and you're tired of being tired, and if you're hungry, and if you got that burning desire in your belly, you know that you're ready for the next level. So when this event is over, here's what I want you to do. I want you to raise the damn standard for your life. And I want you to figure out once and for all, what do you stand for? What are you no longer going to tolerate? And I want you to go after that with everything that you got. And I promise you, if you chase the standard, if you chase the new standard, you're going to end up in a place in your life that you only dreamed of. And what that looks like, only you know. Because it's got to be in here.